In the name of our risen Lord, amen. Please be seated. They knew exactly where they had to go as the darkness faded into light and dawn arrived, the sun rising into the sky. Joseph of Arimathea told them where they had laid him. It was his new tomb away from the hilltop of Golgotha. It wasn't exactly in a garden. The rocks of the stone quarry lay around, but it wasn't either bereft of any flowers, plants, or grass. They dreaded this third day after his suffering and execution. For them, the bright morning sun held no warmth. The birds singing fell on their deaf ears. All they could do was trudge ahead, one step at a time, sad, numb, and grieving, until they arrived at his resting place. Now the women also knew exactly what was expected of them once they arrived. It was always the women who had to perform the task of washing dead bodies, spreading them with aloe and spices to mask the stench of decay, while they were wrapping them in clean linen cloths. They only hoped someone was there, someone stronger, some men, some soldiers, to roll away the stone that blocked the tomb's entrance. And then after their work, they hoped that these same people were there to roll it back in place. What they dreaded the most, though, was seeing the horrific signs of torture that he had endured. Him, whom they loved and lost. They anticipated the look of anguish on his still disfigured face. They dreaded wiping the blood off the thorn marks on his brow, the whiplash marks on his back, the vicious cuts inflicted on his cheeks, eyes, and torso, and the gaping nail holes through his wrists and feet. So can you imagine the confusion when the stone was already rolled away and his body was gone? And then they encountered two lads in dazzling white clothes. Who in the world were they? Were they angels? Were they ghosts? Of course they fell to the ground terrified. Who wouldn't? And then the two lads asked them a significant question. Why do you look for the living among the dead? Before they could even answer, the lads proclaimed some good news. He is not here, he's risen. Don't you remember? Don't you remember what he told you? And they did remember. They did remember. And so they raced to tell all the women who followed Jesus, and then they all went to tell the apostles. Maybe they thought women have strength in numbers. I don't know. The apostles, of course, they didn't believe them, chalking them up as gossiping women weaving an idle tale. But Peter, the chief apostle, he just couldn't resist himself and went to the tomb. He came back amazed, I think even a bit chagrined, to report what he saw. And then they all believed. As I have reflected anew upon Luke's gospel account, my mind keeps pondering again and again the question birthed by the very first sentence. Now you need to understand, I can be kind of a Bible freak. And so I tend to look at a lot of different translations of the different Bible stories. And so I was doing so with Luke's account, and the account today is one. But there's another account from one of the newer Bibles, the New Revised Standard Version, and I was really struck by what the first sentence said of that translation. On the first day of the week, at early dawn, they came to the tomb. They. Who are the they? Later in the gospel, the women are mentioned, but still the mystery remains. Were there others present? Did the two dazzling lads ask the they as well, why are you looking for the living among the dead? So for a moment, let's step into the shoes of the they, so we can think their thoughts, feel their feelings, understand their circumstances, and thus maybe gain insight into how God is speaking to us through them, the they. As we imagine, if we are the they, well, we can be rather hopeful. For the good news they heard is the same good news proclaimed to us. He is risen, rejoice, you are raised too. You are new creations, saved from sin and death. Well, wow, that is really good news. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. For if you read carefully our gospel today, before the good news comes a poignant, challenging question. Why do you look for the living among the dead? With this question, the they had a choice. They could have shrugged their shoulders, turned around, and went home to their comforting, familiar lives, never mentioning a word to anyone about what they had heard, seen, and experienced. And so if we are the they, then God is also asking us, why are you looking for the living among the dead? And before the good news can take effect, the same choice that they faced are what we face. Like, we're here today. Oh my God, it's packed. I haven't seen the church this packed in a long time. Oh my goodness. Bishop's visitation, maybe. But what are we going to do when we go home? Will we never mention or proclaim what we have heard, seen, and experienced along our Christian journey? When Easter Sunday is said and done, will we go home and stay within the comfortable, familiar confines of our emotional and spiritual lives? Will we keep making the same life choices over and over again that keep us entombed in places that rob us of joy, freedom, energy, and vitality? Why are you looking for the living among the dead? Some examples. The job that once brought us enjoyment, creativity, and fulfillment that has lost its excitement and promise, and yet we still return. The relationship that once was so life-giving, love-filled, that is no longer healthy and vibrant. Why do we keep staying? The stress relief avenues that once numbed our anxieties and helped us cope, these habits, addictions, distractions that no longer soothe us but harm us, and yet we can't give them up. I could go on and on. All of us at times have sought the living among the dead. I certainly have, many times in my life. But one memory this year has kept resurfacing for me recently, and I think it may have something to do with we just celebrated the 1 year of my mother's death. And so this memory that kept coming back and back is about my father. My dad died suddenly of a heart attack in February 1991. I was in my first year of seminary and 30 years old. My siblings and I shut down. We put our own grief aside because we were so worried about our mother. Thus, all our energies went toward her. And I unconsciously built an emotional and spiritual tomb for myself after my dad died. I built these 4 walls. They were so strong, nothing could penetrate them. Not the church, not my spiritual director, not my therapist, not God. The only thing I devoted my energy toward was my schoolwork. And this is this was not me all the time, but that semester I had the highest GPA of anyone in my junior class, especially, go figure, excelling in biblical studies. In May 1991, 3 months after Dad died, I was required to do CPE, which is clinical pastoral education. It's something we all have to do in a healthcare setting. And so I chose to do my CPE at the Washington Hospital Center. I was assigned, and I prayed to God the night before I knew my assignment. Oh my goodness, I said, don't put me in that unit. I was assigned to the burn unit. Thanks, God. I also had an intensive surgical care unit and a step-down unit. I was also required to be on call one night a week, a 16-hour shift on top of an 8-hour workday. On call, I was responsible for any emergency within the hospital itself, as well as any emergency that happened in Children's Hospital Center. So my first on-call shift, I was paged to the emergency room, or the MedStar unit, as it is called. There I stood in the back of the room while a team of doctors and nurses tried to resuscitate a 48-year-old man who had suffered a massive heart attack. And as this unresponsive man lay on the gurney, I could only see my father. The valiant staff worked on him for 45 minutes before finally calling it and pronouncing him dead. Afterwards, I went to the pastoral care office, and for the first time since my father died, I wept uncontrollably. My pent-up grief washing over me. My self-made tomb collapsed, the door was ripped open, and finally the light of comfort flooded in. After my shift was over, I went home, took a hot shower, rested, and the next day I put on clean clothes and I went back to the hospital. And I tell you, I felt reborn, I felt renewed, I felt God had raised me. My days of looking for the living among the dead were over, at least at that time in my life. My friends, on this resurrection day, God is asking you, why are you looking for the living among the dead? And even if you can't answer, God has some good news in store for you. He is risen. Along with him, you are risen. Let go of whatever pain, grief, hopelessness, despair, past or present, you are holding on to. There's no longer any need for your fortified, self-imposed tombs. Christ has you. He's always has you and your back. So take his outstretched arm, walk with him out of your dark into the light, walk with him through the garden of new life, and most of all, rejoice. It's Easter morning. Rejoice. And when you feel the tombs of life closing in around you, listen to what the lads in dazzling clothes are saying right here, right now, to you. Don't lose heart. Remember what Christ told and is telling you. Remember. Don't hesitate. Rise up, and choose life. Choose life. And believe.